I'll be coming back to this again and again. Distance is equal to speed into time, right? Of course, in the case of uniform speed, right? Now everybody knows this relation, but I cannot emphasize more on the importance of this relation from the perspective of CAT. This is the Bible relation, and everything just emerges out of this seemingly innocuous equation, right? Distance is equal to speed into time. Okay, everybody knows this. Now I'll just walk you through a couple of variants of what actually can happen. See, there are three variables involved, right? D, V, and T. Now, what will happen if you keep your speed constant and if you increase your time at which you are for which you are traveling, right? If you keep, let's say, case one where V is constant, but time changes, right? Then what happens? The result is that distance will vary directly with time, right? If you increase the time, you will travel a larger distance. If you decrease the time, you'll travel a smaller distance, right? Second thing is that if your time is constant, right, but V changes, the only difference is that now in this case, the distance that you will travel will be directly proportional to your speed, right? If your time is constant and if you travel at a larger speed, obviously you will cover a larger distance. If you travel at a smaller speed, you'll cover a smaller distance, right? The third important thing, which is very, very important sometimes, is that if distance is constant, what happens if distance is constant? If distance is constant, the thing that actually two things happen, but you can club it into one, right? If V increases, then time will decrease. If V decreases, then time will increase. If you club these two things, it basically means that speed is inversely proportional to time, right? Do you have any doubts in these three things? Okay, so these three things should be very crystal clear to you. Okay, these three things should be very crystal clear to you. I'll just quickly repeat. The first two should be fairly simple to understand, but the third one, I'm just repeating it again for the sake of the entire audience, which is that if distance is constant, meaning if the left-hand side of this equation is constant, then the product of speed and time is constant, right? Now, if the product of two quantities is constant, and if you increase one of them, the other has to decrease, right? So if you increase the speed, the time has to decrease, right? If you decrease the speed, your time has to increase. Otherwise, how can the distance be constant? Similarly, you can argue it from the perspective of time as well. If you increase time, your speed will decrease. If you decrease time, your speed will increase, which basically means that speed and time have to move in opposite directions, right? Which is that if you combine these two into a single entity or a single equation or a single proportionality, you can say that speed is inversely proportional to time, right? I hope it's clear now. Okay, now if it's fine, then the variety of questions that we're going to talk about, you would have seen appearing in many mocks if you're appearing for mocks anyway, or if you are just practicing from any book, you'll see these kinds of questions appearing a lot, which is based on this third thing, right? If the distance traveled is constant, and if I increase the speed by by a certain amount or by a certain percentage or by a certain fraction, then how would the time change, right? And there would be different kinds of questions that can be framed, but the only thing that you have to do in these kinds of questions is that you have to figure out that if speed is increasing and if the distance is same, then by how much the time is decreasing. Now obviously there are many elegant formulas that also describe this, but I just don't prefer to remember any formulae. There's plenty of things that you need to remember in geometry, so probably save your memory for that. You don't need to remember anything in arithmetic. Okay, I'll just explain it with a very simple example. So let's say there is a distance, the original speed is v and the original time taken is t, right? Now for example, the statement says that I double my, or let's not take double looks easier, let's take some random fraction. I increase my speed by 30%, right? And travel the same distance. What is the time what is the time saving, or what is the time saving, let's say, right? Now, obviously, if you know the final time that you are taking, you can also calculate the time saving. So The idea is to calculate the final time. Now what will you do? You know that d is v into t. If I increase the speed, I'm traveling the same distance. If I increase the speed by 30%, my speed becomes 1.3 v, right? Which is 13 v by 10, correct? What is the time? T dash. Divide the two equations. Divide the two equations. D gets cancelled. V gets cancelled. T dash will come out to be 10t by 13. Do you guys agree on this? Take a look at it, right? Now you don't even need to do this calculation, right? You don't need to do this calculation. I was just trying to, yeah, see 13v comes because again, that's something that I've explained in my percentage video. If you increase something by 30%, it becomes 130% of itself, right? 130% is 130 upon 100, which is 13 by 10. So that's how it comes. But again, in this, I won't be stressing too much on those concepts, which I've already explained in percentages. You can probably go back and look at it as well. Okay, fine. So you don't even need to do this. I just wanted to explain it that this is how it's happening. What you need to understand is that if v changes to 13v by 10, right? Look at this coefficient. This is 13 by 10, right? You need to multiply it by something so that finally it becomes vt, right? Because vt was your original distance, which means that here also the coefficient was 1, here also the coefficient was 1. Just look at the coefficients, 1 into 1, right? So obviously you need to multiply it by 10 by 13, then only it will become 1 and 1, right? And obviously it's t. So what you need to understand is that if just figure out what this coefficient becomes, the increased speed, right? And then just take the reciprocal of that coefficient, which is 10 by 30. That is your new time. Okay. So for example, if I say that my v changes from v to 5v by 4, I automatically know that this coefficient is 5 by 4. So my t would have changed from t to 4t by 5, right? Because 5 by 4 into 4 by 5 will be 1, and v is v and t is t, so product will become vt, right? Understood? Any doubts to anyone? So this is the concept that you need to understand, right?